All right, I would like to again thank everybody for your patience. I know our Ways and Means meeting ran over. I would like to call this December 6th meeting, Council of Charleston to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Gregg, Councilmember Shealy,
Here.
Councilmember Saccharin, Councilmember Mitchell, Councilmember Brady, Councilmember Gregory, Councilmember Waring, Councilmember Seekings, Councilmember Shade, Councilmember Bowden, Councilmember Appel, Councilmember Parker, Mayor Tecklenburg.
Here. And now if y'all would like to join us, Councilmember Parker is going to lead us in an invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Heavenly Father, please thank you for allowing us to be here tonight. Allow us to find peace, strength, wisdom to take care of our citizens. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America, to the Republic for which it stands, all right. Thank you all. First up, we've got a resolution in remembrance of Joe Engel. And it's kind of a long resolution, but we took our time on the budget. We're going to take our time on this as well. Now, I have some names here that were provided with me. I bet there are others here who would like to come up and join me. I'm going to ask Debbie Engel and other members of the Engel family, Rabbi Refson of Shabbat of Charleston, Rabbi Hoberman of Brit Shalom. Is Rabbi Alexander with us? Please join me along with Brandon Fish. Any members of the Jewish Federation who would like to join us on the podium, please come forward and join me as I share this resolution with council and the public. And then I'll ask a couple of representatives to share a few words. And this resolution tonight, y'all, is really dual purpose: to remember Joe Engel, but also to shine a light on a very troubling trend in our country, and that's a rise in anti-Semitism and hatred in this country. And we all stand together to shine a light on that. So the resolution, again, I ask your patience. It says, whereas as family and friends mourn Joe Engel's death, we remember his perseverance and honor his legacy of education and kindness by retelling his life story. And Joe was just 13 or 14 years when the Nazis invaded Poland in September of 1939, and watched as the Nazis forced the town's Jews to assemble in the town square and shot dead 150 young men. And whereas Joe was eventually sent to the Auschwitz-Birkenau death camp, witnessed and suffered bitter cold, hunger, starvation, disease, beatings, and other forms of inhumane and cruel torture, the infamous Dr. Mengele selected Joe for slave labor instead of the gas chamber and had the number 84009 tattooed on his arm, making him a person without a name. And whereas Joe was among some 66,000 prisoners who were forced on the 35-mile death march in the bitter cold in January 1945, as the Nazis tried to hide their evil crimes from the approaching Red Army. As many as 15,000 died on the march because they couldn't keep up or sat down to rest. And whereas after being put on a cattle train to another concentration camp, Joe escaped. As the Nazis hunted for him, Joe buried himself in the snow until they moved on. Joe survived the remainder of the war in the forest. Joe lost approximately 150 relatives to the Holocaust. And whereas Joe came to Charleston in 1949, eventually opened a successful business, Glamour Cleaners on King Street. And whereas Joe dedicated his life to sharing his experience with tens of thousands of people, making sure the horrors of the Holocaust are not forgotten, teaching us all the very important lesson that prejudice can lead to genocide, and serving as a shining example of how to transcend the past and overcome tragedy in our own lives. Whereas it is in Joe's name and memory that we shine a light on Charleston's Jewish community, which traces its roots to 1695 and has played an important role in Charleston's history. The oldest synagogue in the South, chartered by the Kahal Kadash Beth Elohim congregation in the port of Charleston in 1749. And whereas the city of Charleston recognizes anti-Semitism as defined by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, anti-Semitism, including harassment on the basis of actual or perceived Jewish origin, ancestry, ethnicity, identity, affiliation, or faith, remains a pervasive and persistent and disturbing problem in American society, one that frequently charges Jews with conspiring to harm humanity and blames Jews for, quote, why things go wrong. It is expressed in speech, writing, visual forms, and action, and employs sinister stereotypes and negative character traits. According to the Anti-Defamation League's annual audit, South Carolina experienced a 67% increase, a surge in anti-Semitic incidents in last year, in 2021. And whereas this month, our Jewish community will be celebrating Hanukkah, the Festival of Lights, based on the story of survival in the face of religious persecution. And whereas the city of Charleston looks to shine a light on anti-Semitism and unequivocally rejects it, along with all other forms of racism, religious intolerance, and other prejudices, both here in Charleston and around the world. In 2018, the city of Charleston adopted its hate crime ordinance, rendering discrimination on the basis of religion, race, and ethnicity unlawful in this city. And whereas City Council affirms the city's ongoing commitment to cultivate an inclusive, safe, and just society and culture that values the diversity of our community, works to ensure equitable opportunities in all major facets of society, and celebrates both our individuality and our commonality. City Council urges residents adopt these values in their own lives, calling attention to these harms and denouncing anti-Semitism, hate, and extremism to help keep us all safe. Now, therefore, be it resolved, I, John J. Tecklenburg, Mayor of the City of Charleston, on behalf of all our citizens, hereby extend to the members of the Engel family this expression of sincere regret for your loss. It's a loss of our community, and hope and know you will be consoled by the incredible memories of the fine life and achievements of Joe Engel. What's appropriate to start with Rabbi? Who would like to come forward and make a few remarks? We would welcome you. Michael? Yeah. A family member.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Chief Reynolds. I remember seeing all y'all at Joe's funeral, and I thank y'all so much. Unfortunately, I stand before you and I say, anti-Semitism and hate are alive and well. Why is my question to you. Anti-Semitism in New York City has gone up 127%. The most anti-Semitic college in our country is a bastion of learning, Harvard University. Why? Where does it start? Where does it come from? I wish I knew. But I can tell you the press doesn't help things by giving some of these people a platform to speak their bile, their disgusting bile about these things. Until we take these things by the hand and all raise our voices, it will never end. I'd like to make two things from Elie Wiesel. No human race is superior. No religious faith is inferior. All collective judgments are wrong. Only racists make them. We must take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented. I hope and pray someday we can go to synagogue, we can go to church, we can go to a mosque and not have to look over our shoulder waiting for something to come in that door that wants to kill us. Thank you.
You're welcome to.
Thank you, Mayor Tecklenburg and councilmen and women. I know so many of you, and I so appreciate what you have done today, and shining a light on Joe's memory is really important. I've known him since I was 14 years old, but also my parents were Holocaust survivors. So for me, this is critically important. They experienced this in their lives. You heard everything that Joe went through. My parents went through the same things. They lived in the woods, but it was through the help of righteous Gentiles that they survived. So I need to say thank you to those of you who may have had family. And today, if my parents were alive, where they were, it was Poland then. Today, it's the Ukraine. And here we go again, and we're watching it all over again. We sit here and we watch it. But what's really difficult to take is the amount of anti-Semitism in our own world, as well as other hatred. And remember, when Germany and the Holocaust happened, Hitler murdered 6 million Jews, 1.5 million were children. But he also murdered 5 million others. He murdered Blacks. He murdered people who were infirm. He murdered people with disabilities. You need to think about all the people. And yes, I'm very concerned about my own faith in particular, but I want people to remember that this was bigger than even that, because you forget sometimes how many people were persecuted and damaged. And we have to remember all our people, because I'm about loving others. My mother taught me that. Through all the difficulties and the bitterness and the harshness she lived through, she was never a harsh person. She believed in love. She believed in faith and family and friends. And I just ask that we learn to love each other and care for each other and respect each other. Thank you very much.
Amen. Oh, yeah, please. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Elliot Tick. I was not able to go to Joe Engel's funeral, so this is my contribution. Joe Engel was such an incredibly wonderful man and taught so much. He came to my school when a kid told me that he wanted to play Nazi tag with me and that I would be the Jew. And this is still happening. I was just out in the hall listening to y'all talk and bicker about taxes. And I know that what's happening in here is a lot of it is for reelection. And I can't help but be insulted on behalf of my community, because I have Coke bottles put in my bag, pictures taken of me, and you have the ability to post when Hanukkah in the square happens or Jewish food festival happens. but I don't see things happening. And I don't have a lot of hope because of this. But I am so encouraged because of the Holocaust survivors like Joe that I just have to keep on trusting that something will happen. And I hope that you will not go home and forget this, that you will talk to your friends about it. You don't have to be a liberal. You don't have to go out of your way, but this has to be said. Levels of anti-Semitism are close to what they were pre-World War II in America. This is not just a country for the white Christian. This is a country that was made for everyone, and I need to start seeing that.
Rabbi Evan Ravsky, the Rabbi of Synagogue Emmanuel, thank you for having us this evening and for giving the Engels this incredible honor. Mike, as Joe was sick and we were visiting, Mike showed me this wall of the honors that Joe had received in his life, many of them from this city. And it was just incredible to see that he wasn't just an icon in the Jewish community, but truly a Charleston treasure. Right before this meeting, I was over at MUSC talking to a group of student PAs about cultural sensitivity and things that they can practice in their healthcare. And when I mentioned that I was coming over here after for this ceremony because it had been, just about a week since Joe Engel died, a number of the students gasped. And I sort of smiled and I stopped the presentation. I said, how many of you went to high school here in Charleston? And a few of them raised their hand. And I said, Joe came to your high school and spoke, didn't he? And they all nodded. And they started talking, about those moments when he had come to visit them and the impact that he had on them. And we couldn't go long into that discussion, but it was just, it was that beautiful vision of watching how Joe had impacted the next generation of students, of people, right, regardless of religion. And it was something that I came over here and I mentioned to the Engels because it was just so beautiful, beautiful way to start off this evening before coming here for this. The Jewish community worldwide is sort of at a moment, a turning point, where the survivors of the Holocaust are truly passing, right? We will live to see the end of their generation, and we will be those voices that pass on their stories, that can attest to the horrors of the Holocaust. And while, yes, we will have to say it didn't happen to me, it happened to my uncle, to my parents, to my grandparents. And we will have to tell their stories. And so proclamations like this one and actions like this by these cities affirm that these names and these stories will be remembered and will never be forgotten and will be carried on. And I know Joe wouldn't forgive me if I didn't make a plug for his film. Because a number of years ago, Joe put together a film of his story. It's about 46 minutes long, and Mike has tons of copies that he's willing to give away.
Joe made me promise not to charge for
And Joe made him promise not to charge. And so I would encourage you can reach out to Mike or to myself at the synagogue, Synagogue Emmanuel, to get one of those DVDs, to hear his story, to be able to teach it to your own children and grandchildren and friends, to remember his name and so many other names of the people who suffered in the Holocaust, so that we can carry on their names and their legacies. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Rachel Grader. I just would like to make a plea to everyone about making an impact in your sphere of influence. This is for all communities, that we witness events, micro events, macro events on a daily basis and often continue to walk by as bystanders. What you can do is choose to speak. You can choose to confront, and you can confront with kindness and find your words. It is not okay for things to be going on unspoken to. And that is the responsibility of every single person in this room, so that the words that are being shared tonight don't stay within these four walls and they extend onto the streets on an everyday basis. To speak up, tikkun olam, in Judaism, is to take acts of faith and actual action, to impact our world and to create peace. So I urge all of you to impact your immediate sphere of influence on a daily basis. Thank you. And in memory of Joe.
I did want to call on Chief Reynolds to make a statement about the impact of all of this on all of our joint public safety and his fond remembrance of Joe Engel.
Anybody who knew Joe knew how precious he was to this world, to our nation, and certainly to this city and to the Low Country. I'll miss seeing him at the variety store with Charlie, and he was there almost every time I was there. And a couple of things I just want to share. He spoke to our command, our police command, our executive team, and you could have heard a pin drop. And I think that's the way it was every time he spoke. And there was some great questions. And then we had a conference on hate, and he spoke at that. And I just want to make a statement to the family here, to our community, to his brothers and sisters, to all of you in the synagogue. I know I speak for the mayor, for the council, for the city, and I certainly speak for the police department, that we stand with you, that there is no space between us and you. I have spoken to family and friends who have children who are afraid to go to school, who get picked on and bullied, and all those things that you've said. And it's important for us to tell you that we are with you publicly, consistently. The mayor has led a crusade with many others to get a hate crime law passed in the state. We've got an ordinance in our city, but it's not enough. And we all stand with you. We love you. We respect you. We need you. We honor Joe. The one thing that he said is lead with love and never forget. And we'll never forget. And we just appreciate all of you.
Thank you, Chief. Arthur Lawrence.
My name is Arthur Lawrence, and I used to be the president of the West Side Neighborhood Association. And with Jeff Roberts, and when I was a young man, I met Joe on King Street. He worked close with our neighborhood. In honoring of Joe with Jeff Roberts, right off of King Street, is Engel Place, Joe Engel Place, so that our community will always remember Joe, and our community, West Side, always will support you in anything that we can do for you. We are here for you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Well, thank you again for being with us all. I've reflected on Joe and my own relationship, and I had those long words in the resolution, but I've kind of summarized it in my heart like this, that Joe Engel had to endure the worst of what humanity had to offer. But amazingly, he expressed in his life the best of what humanity had to offer. God bless you. And stick around if you like. We're going to be here for a while longer. You got- So next, I'd like to recognize some state champions, being the Ebony soccer team. I'd like to ask the coaches and the players of state champion 11, 12-year-old Ebony Soccer Little Pele's Mosquitoes team to join me here on the podium. Are y'all out there? I see a few. Come forward. Little Pele's Soccer Mosquitoes team. Come on, y'all. There we go. Y'all can watch those games from afar over in the Mideast at our sister city of Doha, Qatar. But these are the World Cup champions of Charleston right here, y'all. Yeah. This 11, 12-year-old team competed in the Soccer Carolina Youth Soccer Public Fall Festival tournament against the Irmo Chapin Recreation Commission Rowdies. The Ebony Soccer Little Pele Mosquitoes won the match 3-1 and were crowned the champions. The coaches for the team are Stephen Nelson and Ben Powell. Ebony Soccer is run by longtime administrator and coach Vince Ashby. Vince also serves on the city's Citizen Recreation Commission. The team includes Dominique Goodwin. Raise your hand if you're here. They're not all here. Kamani Lee, William Powell, Torrin Robinson, Zion Simmons, Danelle Singleton, Giovanni Singleton, McKenna Singleton, Nicholas Steed, Zion Steed, Brendan Thomas, Hudson Toporek, Jameson Edwards, Nolan Johnson, and Jeremiah Logan. We are so proud of you and your coaches and families. On behalf of City Council, we would like to congratulate you and wish you continued success. Really cool about the experience. So you got a captain of the team here? Co-captain?
Soccer is just not a sport. It's a way of,
You're good.
it's a way of life. It's can be competitive, but it's usually for fun. It's not always just a way to play. It's just a way to express yourself. There's multiple ways to do it. And I'm talking to my coaches about helping the community of the poor. And we're thinking about doing a fundraiser. So come down.
Would like to make any remarks? Yes.
Good evening. Thank you. As the mayor referenced, there's a big tournament going on in Qatar right now. And all eyes have been on it. I'm sure that our players have been watching over the past couple of weeks, and we'll through to the final. And that's, I think, for us guys, just a reminder of the boundless opportunity that is in front of you as players and as people, that knows no borders in terms of your potential and where you can go individually and together. At Ebony City Soccer, we operate on the 7 principles, African principles of Kwanzaa. We are guided by the spirit of Harambe, which means pull together. We all pull together. And that really guides our operation as a team, as a club, and as a community at Ebony City Soccer. Also, that informs our place here in the community in the city of Charleston. And we are grateful, Mayor, to the city, to the Recreation Department for your support with facilities and with programming. And we look forward to continued growth in a spirit of togetherness and Harambe with you and the city of Charleston. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Keep it up. World Cup champ. So, finally, for our last presentation, we have the 2023 Robert Ballard Award, and I'd like to ask Donna Gill and her family to join me up here on the podium. Donna, please come forward, and any of your family members you'd like to join you. And and friends, family and friends. How about that?
My daughter was here.
Family. Gotcha. I love that. So y'all, since 1999, the city of Charleston has honored a neighborhood leader for committed volunteer service with an award each year. Previously named for Harold Kuhn, the award was renamed for another committed volunteer, Robert Ballard, after his death. Mr. Ballard was instrumental in improving the livability of our city and advocated for a regulated street sweeping program. He also opened his home to citizen groups to host meetings and supported grassroots advocacy efforts for many causes in the city. In the process, he strengthened relationships among neighbors. I think many of us knew Robert. He was an amazing man. This year, we had several fantastic and worthy nominees, including Miss Barbara Stroud from Old Windermere, Miss Connie Lee Hughes from Radcliffe Borough, and Mr. Stuart Weinberg from James Island. Each of them helped make Charleston the special place that it is. We're grateful for their service, but the neighborhood council who gets together and votes on this award. And could I ask members of the neighborhood council to please stand and be recognized? Appreciate y'all's service as we continue this honor, because these folks have been in the trenches and knows what it takes. But they voted to honor Miss Donna Gill from West Ashley with the Robert Ballard Award for 2023 because of her tireless efforts to advocate for neighbors and community members who are experiencing homelessness. She hosts a weekly potluck in the park at Hampstead Square every Sunday, where people can come and receive friendship and a warm meal. She advertises and markets these events using social media to reach people in need. At the weekly potluck, she provides clothing and shoes to residents who might need them. Her potluck dinners bring together people who would not normally connect. And in that sense, she is a true community builder like Mr. Ballard. Our city and community are stronger and more resilient for people like Ms. Gill. The city of Charleston is grateful for her service, and therefore it is my honor to present to Ms. Gill with this plaque for the 2023 Robert Ballard Award for Volunteerism. Congratulations. Donna, if you'd like to make a few remarks.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. And thank you all, council members. I appreciate it very, very much. I'm humbled and honored and incredulous. Frankly, there are so many wonderful people here in Charleston that go above and beyond for this amazing community. I would like to acknowledge my family who are watching on the live feed back in Massachusetts. And also my friends, my dear friends that are my family, as one points out here. There should be 100 other people behind me. I only coordinate this meal, I think 3 years now. It just celebrated its 10-year anniversary, and there was a whole litany of predecessors and current volunteers that need to be standing beside me. It truly takes a village, and that's what my family, my dad in particular, taught me, and it's so ingrained in me, I can't think of another way to be. Sometimes people ask me, why do you do this? And why you need to focus on you, you need to do this. No, you're asking me to have a lobotomy. I need to do what I know is right and my fellow volunteers, my fellow activists, some of whom are here for other reasons. We just believe in human rights, equality, and basic respect for everyone. And if the underserved and the underprivileged can't do it for themselves, then it's my job, it's your job to do it for them. Thank you very much for this.
So I often say that a community, as I believe at the end of the day, we are judged as individuals by how we help those most in need. And if that's true, Donna Gill, you provide Charleston with an A+ rating of caring for those most in need in our community. So once again, my thanks, our thanks from City Council and all our citizens for the wonderful work you do in the community. And thanks again to the Neighborhood Commission for recognizing you. God bless. All right, next up is our public
Mayor.
hearings.
Mr. Mayor, I would ask that since these 4 items are all related to the budget, that we take 1 through 4 together, but allow for extended time for people to make remarks if they want to be heard on the matters.
Absolutely.
Second.
Absolutely. All in favor of taking these 4 items together, please say aye. Any opposed, the ayes have it. So, so any comment from citizens about our budget, anything the city is spending funds on for next year, please come forward, identify yourself and your address, and we'd be happy to hear from you. We've been talking all night, but if you can keep your remarks to 90 seconds, that would be great. If you need a little more time, just let me know. Mr. Bryant, you want to kick us off?
Yes. The budget is probably the most important meeting. After this meeting, it shouldn't be any more, in my opinion. On November 22nd, when I came here, the Court of Appeals had responded to my complaint regarding ARPA funding and CARES Act funding, absent of a final rule. 5.8% was done by Dominion Energy to Public Service Commission at 5.8%. If you right now did 10%, you got a check, had to pay your light bill, it'd be 5.8%. So your 10% would really be 5. So therefore, what we need to do is look at having a rate increase, or having some type of increase for developers, to, chip in a little more. I don't think that you're taxing, feeing enough. And you can't cut taxes, I told a friend of mine, if your tax rate don't cover your expenses. So really, you're not cutting taxes, you're saying you're cutting taxes. Now, in particular for senior citizens in the community with homestead exemptions that they have, what are we going to do in terms of addressing the county about homestead exemptions, existing residents in the community, their concerns that they have regarding those emerging residents with the plan unit development you did a couple of weeks ago? I think there's some advocacy going on there. We can't be advocating for applicants. We have to have a point of order on that issue. You're on the prevailing side. It is a historic preservation committee.
Time.
Can I get another 30 seconds?
Yes, sir. Please proceed.
It's a historic preservation committee for the county. You acknowledge that commission. What happened was the county never didn't receive any notice about it, or the applicant received any notice about this commission. That's behind the property. So the county has a historical preservation behind the property. I spoke to the Carter, the ombudsman. It borders Ms. Honeycutt's district, Ms. Johnson's district. They both didn't know anything about it. So if you're on the prevailing side of that issue, we'd hope that the applicant goes to the county, has me Ms. Honeycutt, Ms. Johnson, and others to ensure that those behind them are treated fairly to existing residents. So existing residents need to be treated with little more respect as you grow the city. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And also I have my Public Service Commission public comments I made in 2012, the Public Service Chairman, to Mr. Shade, and to the Chairman regarding SC and G rate increases, because you get franchise fees, you get franchise fees.
Right.
And the question becomes, what are you doing with the franchise fees? Dominion Energy's on stocks going up to the roof and they're making all kinds of money. So we need to make sure the utility companies secure their property, like in North Carolina, so we don't be out of light, right? Make sure that's secured under the Homeland Security Act 2002, which I filed a complaint 10 years ago about that. This Homeland Security is supposed to protect us from ourselves.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to be heard on budget matters? Please come forward. Muhammad, good evening.
Evening. Evening. You know, I've been coming down here since 1992. I've seen plenty changes have taken place. And when Councilman Seeking, Waring, Gregory came on board, a great change came in. Gregory, Councilman Gregory, he went after Mayor Raleigh constantly. He brought in the TV and everything, the television. And when you hear that word television, it says, tell your vision. And they told the vision. And he pressed Mayor Raleigh constantly, did a wonderful job. And I thank God for him. I thank God for Seeking. His name is Seeking. And oh boy, he be the king. Everybody. He see too, he can see good. And the people who send him here, they should applaud you all the time. You do a wonderful job for your neighborhood. Now, we got this word budget. I don't know how they could pronounce budget, because it's B-U-D, bud. And then it's G-E-T, get. Now they're telling you, say, get the bud from out of here. And the only bud I know is Budweiser. And that gets you drunk. And that's what happened in here tonight. A whole lot of people got drunk because they drank and drank. And man, y'all did some entertainment. This was better than going to the Apollo Theater on 125th Street in Harlem, New York. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to be heard on the budget? Thank you.
Mayor Tecklenburg, City Council, I wanted to publicly thank you for your support of Charleston Wine and Food, but more so, I wanted to thank you for the reminder of what makes this place so special tonight. I was truly moved by the presentations this evening, and it's the people that makes Charleston so special. So thank you all for your service and continuing to put us first. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Would anyone else like to be heard on any budget matter? All right. Hearing none, it goes to council, but we've already acted on all these matters that were at Ways and Means, and they'll be in our Ways and Means report. So
We need to take action on them now. We need to take action on them now. Yes, sir.
all four items?
Yes.
Okay. And all four items had passed at Ways and Means, correct? Y'all want to take all four together?
We did. We made a motion.
It's
Okay.
Brady,
All right.
Brady and Gregory.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And also as amended.
I don't think those budgets were they weren't amended.
The 23,
And then just for the record, the nays were, I have Seekings, Parker, and Greg. Is that correct?
Madam Clerk, we did do an amendment.
But was it for the municipal accommodations and the general? But that was for, I think, the accommodation, the state accommodations. This is municipal accommodations.
There's no first reading.
amended. Yeah. So these were all approved as is. Correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Just want to make that clear. What we voted on was number 1 through 4 as is. These particular items were not amended.
Correct.
Right. Okay. So next up is our approval of city council minute from November 8th. Any additions, deletions, corrections? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Now is our citizens participation period. And I don't know if anybody else signed up
We
beyond
have-
our public hearing.
We do. We have a few people signed up. Did you want to have the same time limit? All right. Mohammed Idris.
Mohammed, would you like to address us again as part of citizens' participation period? No.
This sign say New World Order and racism is dead and buried. It got executed in 1975 when the son of Elijah Muhammad, may God be pleased with him, came in office, Imam Warfdi Muhammad. And it was buried when Obama became the president of the United States. What we seeing now that they are exhuming the body. Sometimes you have to do that with Donald Trump. That's what happened. And he is bringing things in the open and he's showing who is guilty. These people here, may God be pleased with them, the founding father. We should salute them every day. They did a wonderful job for our country. They found something and they implemented it. And they did it in the city of Philadelphia. And we should be asking, what did they find? We should be constantly talking and promoting what they find. They did a wonderful job. This here, National Geographic, the story of Jesus. And when you look at that word, it says just us. The U and the S could be the United States.
Time. Anthony Bryant.
What we want to see happen in the budget with public safety would be the last couple of years, the Department of Justice ruled justifiable use of force was allowed at the county jail. The Federal Bureau of Investigation stated that an African-American male in Charleston County 13 years ago was wrongfully accused of a crime he did not commit. That happened. And also the management system 7 years ago of the Department of Justice failed. So therefore, African Americans in this state have a serious problem with living. So you can't have liberty without life. So what I'm stating to you tonight is we want the city of Charleston to lay out what is criminal street gang in terms of the time they will get in prison, the punishment, penalties, and fine to be posted through criteria and method with the school districts so our kids can know they're given notice before you proceed on them. Okay, we need notices from the federal government and state government on many of these laws to be posted in school districts where the majority of the children that will face these harsh penalties. And that's what I'm working on now, just fair notice. That's all we need is fair notice so we can know when something happens to us, you gave us notice that it happened. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. I've been a Charleston County teacher for 12 years, and in that time, I've always had to work a second job to provide economic security for my family. Primarily, I've worked as a pedicab driver, riding summers and weekends and any vacation I could. I pedicabbed until last year when this council approved a bid to modestly expand the program. 6 tricycles, 6 new tags would be released. It's the first increase in 11 years. So, and in conjunction with other riders, I signed up to participate. Having worked in the industry for a combined 23 years, our ownership group felt qualified and compelled to take on more responsibility. But more than a year later, the bid you approved has not occurred. The economic opportunity you created has turned into hardship for myself and my partners as we wait for this council to follow through on its promises. So please hold the bid in February. Can't believe I've been here this many times talking about 6 tricycles. Were this council to delay once again, they would be actively hampering small business creation. Provide citizens with opportunity, particularly in a green local industry. This is a no-brainer. It's 6 tricycles in a sea of thousands, tens of thousands of cars. Thank you.
Alyssa Smith. Scott Benedict. And then we had one person who signed up online. It was Leanne Atkins. Leanne Atkins, if you're online, you can press *6. All right, we did receive one comment. Patty Whelan asked council to discourage development of large communities on Johns Island. She said developers had no regard for the beauty of the island and only saw big dollar signs. And those were, we did receive some other comments that you received in full by email. That was just the only comment by someone who did not speak tonight at council.
Thank you all for being with us this evening. Any other comments? Great. So next up is our petitions and communications.
Move for
of
approval.
Appointment
Second.
to the Recreation Commission of Christopher Betros. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next is the addition of 2 neighborhood associations to our neighborhood council, Gadsden Neighborhood Association and 33 Calhoun HOA. And I meant to recognize all, by the way, well, maybe someone, Robert, tell her tomorrow, Becca Hopkins is our neighborhood liaison, and she helped with the effort for the Robert Ballard Award as well from the staff point of view, and helps manage all these neighborhood association relationships. And I believe she does an excellent job. Anyway, any discussion on the new associations? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next, council communication, Councilmember Shade regarding overnight parking of trucks in West Ashley.
I'm going to distribute to my colleagues some photographs I took. This is the first set of these large trucks that park on Sumar Street at the Piggly Wiggly site. And this is an ongoing regular occurrence. And I've had some discussions with, I don't see Rick anymore, but Rick Giroux about this. And we put up some new signs, but you'll see in some of these photographs that these trucks park overnight. And I'm constantly calling either the Parks Department, our livability, or our police department to get these things off our property. This is on our property, but it also extends across the street to Sumar Street. So these 18-wheelers, I've got one for you, Mayor, to reflect that this is just an ongoing problem with these large rigs are deciding to park in West Ashley. We've been trying to revitalize West Ashley, and we have this ongoing problem. And then the last set is actually bowling lanes off of San Rittenberg. The State Department of Transportation thinks it's okay to park their trucks or their mowing equipment sometimes on these properties. I checked with Lieutenant King. We have no ordinances to deal with this at all. This is eyesore. I don't know if it happens in other parts of West Ashley, but what I'd like to happen is some discussion about this at our traffic and transportation, if there's some ordinance that we can pass to get these things out of these lots that are currently abandoned or not being used. Just get these things, these big rigs out of here. We don't need this. This is not helping with revitalizations of West Ashley. One of the pictures on the Piggly Wiggly site is a portable on-demand storage container. You know, in the process, we've allowed the CARTA to use this area for training. The fire department uses it for training as well. These things get in the way. There's not only an eyesore, there's a safety matter as well. So I would just ask that perhaps in January, one of the next traffic and transportation committee meetings, that we consider some ordinances if that's allowed for us give us some flexibility to enforce this. I'm not sure if this is a problem that other council members are experiencing on James Island or other parts of West Ashley or Johns Island or on Daniel Island, but it's certainly an ongoing eyesore. And these are just a few examples I've given council.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. And Councilmember Brady, I'm sure you'd be happy to put that on your next agenda.
That's what I was just going to say. We'd be happy to discuss it. And should the committee decide to move forward with it, we can certainly ask staff to look at an ordinance with that.
Let's ask Dan Riccio to attend along with police department personnel to get straight about what our ordinances are for 18-wheeler parking.
But one other thought, Mayor, this is not exactly part of the same discussion, but there's been an influx of homeless folks coming into West Ashley. And one of the ladies decided to sleep on a sidewalk right outside of Sandhurst on Orange Grove Road. So I talked to Lieutenant King about this. Y'all may remember we passed an ordinance dealing with people obstructing sidewalks on downtown King Street. That ordinance does not affect anything in West Ashley. So a person who decides to sleep on a sidewalk can do that legally. We have no recourse on doing that. As long as you can walk over that person, they can stay in West Ashley on the sidewalk. So maybe another thought for consideration as well that your committee, Councilmember Brady may want to take up.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate you bringing that up. Next is our council committee reports. First up is Committee on Public Works, Councilmember Waring.
I agree with that on all actionable items, Mr. Mayor. And once that is passed, it passed unanimously at yesterday's Public Works meeting. I would respectfully ask for a short presentation by Mr. Wesley Ropp about delinquent collections on our stormwater fees and some other information. He's very adept at explaining. Public Works Committee knows about it. The remainder of council needs to be properly brought up to speed. Right. But I move approval of adoption of the report.
Are you asking Mr. Rock to make a report at this time? Or?
Well, I hope we'll carry the motion on all actionable items that was passed and then ask Mr. Rock to make his presentation.
Great. Terrific. Any discussion on those motions? All in favor, please say aye. And Wesley,
Mayor, if I just make one quick comment and
yeah,
just
yes, sir.
Matt's still here. You'll notice on two of these acceptance of dedications or right of ways for two properties on Bowden, he has been relentless, and I mean relentless in getting these easements. And this is in Charlestown Estates. I just wanted to give him a big shout out and thanks. Councilmember Waring joined me at a citizens meeting on Thursday to talk about pump stations and the work that we're doing over in Charleston Estates. So just thanks, Matt, for getting that. It's going to have a huge impact on improving the water flow and stormwater relief. You accompanied one day when we met one of the residents, Carl Wolf, over there a couple of years ago.
That's right.
By just putting a new drainage ditch in front of his house that stopped the water from going in. So this is part of the ongoing process with that.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Mr. Rock, and if I may comment, he made an excellent presentation to the committee. We've been talking about this topic for a while of perhaps changing the way in which we bill our stormwater fee, but also enhancing it. Speaking about enhancing fees, this is another journey we're on with our stormwater fees. So with that said, please a synopsis of your report.
Certainly. My name is Wesley Ropp. I'm with Charleston Water Systems. I'm the Chief Financial Officer. And the council members Waring's committee last night had a short presentation. We discussed a little bit about going back to 1995, 1996, the city of Charleston asked us to start billing for stormwater. And we're in the process now of looking at and changing our software. It's actually worked very well during that time, and it's been a successful program. But as we go in and change our software, we map out all our processes, and we started looking at how we bill. And how the water bill works is whoever has the water bill that's in their name gets the stormwater bill. And a lot of times it's a tenant versus a property owner. And it works very well if everybody pays, but sometimes people don't. And so if it's on the tax bill, then you can have a lien, and so you can go after the uncollected account. So we looked at that, and also that there are a lot of properties in the city of Charleston that do not have a water bill. their land. And so there's a big opportunity for expanding it beyond what we bill for, and that would be what you pick up the tax bill with the properties. And so we think it would generate, from our calculations, over $600,000 immediately for the city to change that over as a line item bill. It's done by North Charleston, Mount Pleasant, so the county is already set up to do it. It's a pretty seamless change. And we'll take, as Councilman Waring's mentioned, it will, the first year will be a little painful because we bill each month and then the tax bill's in arrears. So that would be something that had to maybe be financed the first year for the transition. But it will pick up a lot of money for the city. And so I think it would be a good move. And we just felt like we wanted to point that out as we're looking at our software and mapping things out, that we wanted to at least reach out and tell you what we saw. So any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Rupp. You had a chance to look at the Walpert report. We haven't seen it. What was some of your takeaway from looking at it?
Okay, so the city has a really good report by Walpert Engineering, and we actually work with them. And so we provided our data to them, and so they looked at the same information. And so they're more of an expert on stormwater than we are. And they feel like that you have the potential to get $5 to $6 million extra. So your current billings are around 12 million. So you're looking at a 50% increase in potential revenues. Now they're doing more than just a few things. They're looking at the strength of the stormwater and having an assessment for that. But it's very, very well done report. And I think y'all will really like it when you have an opportunity to review it. So, and any questions? Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming and having the patience to see how cool he is. He's actually, that AAA credit rating that CWS has. He's the point person on that. He's wonderful staff, and he'll be the first one to tell you that. But his leadership has been outstanding in the consistency with CWS having AAA credit rating in congruency with the city of Charleston. Thank you, Mr. Rob.
Thank you so much. So next up is our report on Committee of Ways and Means.
Move for approval.
Gregory.
Second,
In this case, we would say
as amended. Second.
Any further discussion on any of that? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
As
Next.
the items that were voted on in the original.
Yes, and the nay votes will carry over.
And next we have our bills up for second reading. We only have 26 of them.
Move approval 1 through 26.
Okay.
Can we,
Do we have a
can we
second?
carve out 14 and 15, please?
We're going to carve out 14 and 15.
Yes, I was gonna make his thing.
Who is the second?
Second,
No, I'll turn mine off.
second.
Here you go.
Items 1 through 13 and 16 through 26. All together. Any discussion on any of those? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Now for third reading of those same items. And we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. So next up is number 14. And do we have a motion to give that second reading?
Move for approval.
Okay. Any discussion? Councilmember Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know I said a lot at the first reading, but here's just my final thought, gentlemen. I've heard it time and time again in here. We do not have to upzone a property, okay? They are well within their right to build to current zoning standards. All I'm trying to do is lighten the footprint, as James Island requested. It is a dangerous intersection. We don't have the infrastructure there that's needed in and around that area. I'll leave it at that. I just also I just hope that everyone's making their decisions not based on personal relationships with developers and or engineers. And that's all I'll say.
If I may ask council's forbearance, could we take 14 and 15 together? Because they're kind of related. One's annexation and one's the zoning. All right. Further discussion on taking both of them together. Councilmember Seeking, did you want to be heard? Anyone else?
Once we talk about the substance, but Councilmember Gregg is next.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear. Okay. Did you want to be recognized? Okay, anyone else on 14 and 15? All in favor, please say aye. Any
Nay.
opposed?
That was for taking them together.
Oh, to take them together. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of you. Just to take them together, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now, any discussion on the merits of 14 and 15? Councilman Ware.
You know, we had a good hearty discussion on this last meeting, and you know, to your point about relationships with developers, I met with the developer once. I don't know the developer, but I'm gonna tell you the part that that what we're trying to prevent is no one in that community has seen what could happen without city regulations. Our approval process and our TRC process is much more stringent than if something is developed in the county. It's kind of like you get an accountant and the accountant comes up with legal tax deductions. And then when you get the tax bill, you still thought you paid too much, but you never saw what you would have paid without all those deductions had you not taken them. Part of this property is in the county, and they don't have a BZA like ours, not like ours. I was on the, I thought about this in the aftermath going home. You know, people thought they weren't heard. Again, 17 years on the planning commission and now 11 years on city council. I have never seen a plan unit development that had 8 or 9 stipulations. Remember, a plan unit development is a custom zoning to begin with. You have to put all your information up front before it's approved. And that's what these people did. And then the planning commission said, we'll approve it, but only if you do these 8 or 9 additional things, which they agreed to do. Now, if we scuttle that, and this is the portion that can be developed in the county, those 8 or 9 special stipulations probably won't be it. Or let's say they sold it to somebody else and they developed it in the county. They wouldn't even come in this room. We wouldn't have a say-so. We wouldn't have a vote on that portion. So that part of some of the concessions that's already been made, I would hate to see that happen in another jurisdiction, and we could have done something about it. So that's the part that I would like to point out. We haven't seen what could happen but for our regulations. And we just kind of cast off. When I say we, I understand some of the people when they come to a public hearing, when they ask for 2 or 3 things and they don't get everything they asked for, but they're not considering or considerate of those exceptions that the planning commission required and the city council said, you know what, we agreed to those stipulations to be in place. So anyway, I think I just want to offer that as additional information to consider.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to be heard? And then if, Councilmember Gregg.
District 1 is largely a planned unit development. And I think I've seen the good and the bad that's associated with that. The good is that we kind of can get some of these things ironed out on the front end. The bad is that, you know, Mr. Lincoln was in here not too many months ago, and Mr. Lincoln had his way of life disrupted by this PUD. And I see a lot of parallels between what happened with the Jack Primus community and what we're talking about here. We heard loud and clear from the citizens of that community, and I think it's important for us to listen. I think they're asking for not having an inn down the street from their properties, and so I'm gonna vote against this because that's what I heard from them. So that's all I have to say. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Seekings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So after our last meeting, I actually went out to this property and I went there again today, and I was taken by the comments that were made by the citizens who live in that community. I'd never actually been back down those roads. It's a residential community. It's a residential community that's been there for a long time, and they, like everybody else who lives in a residential community, relies on, among other things, the zoning, not just where they live, but around them. And, you know, I have a saying, you've heard me say it around here before, zoning is forever until it isn't. And one of the questions that was asked at our last city council meeting that struck me as I was leaving, and it struck me ever since, is what is better for that community in terms of the options under the current zoning as opposed to the PUD? And unless I'm missing something, Mr. Morgan's not here, I didn't get a chance to talk to him today, but I think that the two differences is one, less hotel rooms, but still hotel rooms, 10 as opposed to 20, and more houses by a factor of 3. And the citizens who came out and took their time to come out, not just to talk to us, but to the Planning Commission said, we get it. We're not opposed to development. We just like more residential and less commercial. And in the instance where we're sitting here today, I hear you on the PUD and the technical aspects. There was a really good conversation about that last time. We've had a lot of PUDs come through here. I think that they do help on the front end, so you can understand stormwater regulation, all the work that was done out there. But in the end, the zoning is owned by the people in that community, and they asked us not to do this. They asked us to allow the zoning that's in there because zoning is forever until it isn't, and we voted to change it. And it really struck me today as I went down you remember the gentleman who came and said, I live on the backside of this proposed community and my driveway, I drove down that driveway today. I encourage you all to go out there and do it and take a look around there. His way of life is going to change forever. I get that. But I mean, dramatically, and I think that they should have some say in it. And their say and their request to us was just leave it alone. Leave it alone. And so I'm going to vote against this PUD too, not because I don't think PUDs are really good planning devices, nor do I not think that this was well thought out by our planning commission and the property owner, but the property owner bought this property knowing what the zoning was on it. The people who've lived there for generations have lived around there knowing what the zoning is on it and around them. We're now calling balls and strikes on that. We're picking one over the other when we're not changing the commercial viability of the land that was purchased under the zoning that's out there, still can be developed. We're not hurting in any large regard the efficacy of our stormwater requirements, which are still going to be required out there. I don't know whether or not the property owner would still want to annex in without the PUD. I don't know. But I would encourage you all to go out there, if you haven't physically been boots on the ground out there, and listen in your mind the requests of that community and what they asked us to not do. And that was just to leave it alone and let the zoning that they've lived with and relied on for generations to move forward. So I'm gonna vote no for second reading. I would encourage us to not give a third reading tonight, but leave you all some time to go out there if you've got some time to do it and take a look around. It is a residential community for sure. It is. And in those voices, I asked Jennifer actually if the minutes are ready yet. If you reminded me that we still make them do verbatim minutes, so we have to think about that, by the way, in our rules committee going forward. But I went and watched the video, and there was a cry from that community that said, "Look, leave it alone," and that's their zoning. It's theirs, and let's not take it away from them.
Councilmember Parker.
Thank you. And thank you, Councilmember Seekings, Councilmember Gregg. Thank you. You put it much more eloquently than I can, but Councilmember Waring, just to your point, the parcel that's in the county, they do have, that falls in the Rethink Folly Road overlay. So there are a lot of guardrails there as well. If and when it stayed in the county. So there will be regulations, I understand, and the community understood as well. Yeah.
All right. Any other comments, questions?
So we need a motion for the second reading. Is they only?
I think the motion's on the floor for second reading. Oh, okay. We need a motion to approve or disapprove or whatever.
As a point of order, there is a motion on the floor for second reading. Because if it passes, we would then need the motion in second order at the third.
Yeah, right.
And so to Councilmember Seekings, it doesn't need to be a separate motion. It'll go through this vote. And then if it needs to move to third, that's up to council.
Okay.
Just for clarification, I thought the motion on the floor that was voted on was to take them together.
It was. So now we need a motion for second reading.
Correct.
Motion to approve second reading of 14 and 15.
Well, then I'll make a motion to deny.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to deny approval. Do we have a second? Any discussion on a motion to deny? Councilmember Seekings. All in favor to deny approval, please say aye. Any opposed? No.
And just for the record, I have Councilmember Parker, Councilmember Seekings, Councilmember Greg, you were in favor of the motion. Is that correct? Okay.
Councilmember Sacker.
I guess I have a either point of order or a question on procedure. So we don't have to take a third reading right now, do we?
We don't have to, no.
Okay.
We,
Thank you.
can we entertain a motion for second reading? Okay.
Motion to defer third reading.
I'm sorry?
Oh, I thought we just did.
Second reading of numbers 14 and 15. All right, we got a motion and a second.
Who was the motion for the second reading? Okay, and you were the second? All right, thank you.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. We got 3 noes. Okay, all right. So do we want to entertain a motion for third reading? Excuse me? We have a motion for third reading. And we have a second by Councilmember Waring. Any discussion about giving a third reading and final ratification of the 2 bills? Yes, sir. Councilmember Sacker.
Thank you, Mayor. I've supported this first and second reading, but I would like to give us some time to Councilman Seeking's point. I would like to actually go out there and take a drive. Is there a rush to get this done tonight? I'm not sure, but I would like to be able to go out there at some point this week. Speak with Councilwoman. I think you made some valid points. I'd like to have the time to do some due diligence on my end. So I would request us not to take third reading tonight.
Okay. Councilmember Shade and then Seekings.
Madam, point of order, if we vote down approval of the third reading, can we bring that up at the next meeting? I'm looking at our legal counsel. Okay, so make sure we're not killing it completely by voting it down for the. Okay.
But didn't I make a motion to defer third reading?
I make a motion to defer until next meeting.
That's a better motion. Okay, we have a motion to defer.
Who is the second?
Second.
I made a motion to defer.
Second. And so that would give us till the next meeting to come back. Third reading. So any further discussion, Councilmember Waring?
I agree with that. Listen, I'll go with the deferral, but I think everybody around council needs to know you can't make any changes on third reading.
Right.
Okay?
That's right.
You either voted up or down.
That's
It'll
right.
be up or down when we come back. Yeah, Councilmember.
And again, I would just, for the reasons stated, I would encourage us to let this go one more reading and you get a chance to get out there.
Okay. Terrific. All right. All in favor of the motion to defer, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, so I won't sign those 2. We're going to wait on those. And y'all, I think that's it. We ended up not needing to come to you with the executive session on
Move to adjourn.
legal advice. And is there any further business to come before us tonight?